Thank you so much again for joining us on our Parenting Talk series, 30-minute with subject expert. My name is Chen from Little Monkey, and as you know, these are to help parents with subjects or issues that they face on a regular basis during their parenting journey. So today, we brought with us expert Sanchita, and today's topic is on, let me click here, children nutrition. So Sanchita is a nutrition consultant, especially for babies and toddlers. So I brought it in today because, other than we did sleep training expert before, we talk about diapering, we talk about breastfeeding. Now, as the baby's getting bigger, nutrition is the next thing that we should be looking for, especially if we want our kids to have a really good relationship with food, so that when they grow up, they're not having any of those issues that we hear about, from having really bad diet to being obese as well. So those are problems that we try to avoid for our children. Let's give a little background about Sanchita. Would you mind introducing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I think this is such a great platform. So my name is Sanchita. I'm actually from the Caribbean, and I moved here about 5 years ago, and I got married, and I've been in Hong Kong for 5 years, and I have twins. They're toddlers right now, and I am a nutrition consultant for babies and toddlers.
Can you give us a little background why you started this company? What does your company really do with the kids and the family?
So basically, it's a service-based company. And what happened was when I had my twins, when I had to start solids at 6 months, my kids are vegetarian. And, I read all the books out there. I spoke to the pediatricians. I went on Instagram, listened to all these podcasts, but I was still so confused about what to feed them. Because, we're so lucky we have so much information out there. But at some point, you're like, okay, but which way do I go? And I was so confused. And I remember spoon feeding my kids. They didn't see the food. They were on the rocker. And, even though I had all the information, I didn't know what was best for us. And, I sat there and I said, there's so many nutritionists out there for adults, but why is there no one there that can guide me and tell me what to feed my kids? And especially when the first few years is when they're growing the most, and that's when they need the most nutrition. So I said, I need to do something about this. So I took things into my own hands and I studied to become a nutrition consultant. And now I'm able to practice that. And what I really do is I just help parents feel confident at meal times, so that they have a plan, they know what to expect, and, they're able to give their kids a positive relationship with food. Because half the time it's our mindset and how we approach it, not about them, right? So I just want to empower parents and help clear out all that information.
So let's start and go with starting from the baby, right? So one of the first questions that everyone always asks, and all new moms, especially first-time parents, are when to start solid, when to wean, we call it in the industry, right? So I have this beautiful chart that you gave me here to help parents out, and we'll share all this in our blog when we share this video interview as well. But yeah, a lot of parents just think it's a number. Oh, 6 months, 5 months. But sometimes 6 months, they're not even ready yet because based on this, right?
And especially a lot of pediatricians will tell you, oh, start at 4 months, just start early. So you have to know, why are we starting solids, right? So in the first 6 months, milk is the primary source of nutrition, So the reason we introduce solids is just to get, babies used to eating and teach them the skills of eating. It's not about them finishing the bowl. It's about them physically being able to feed themselves and being able to digest different foods. So there's certain milestones they need to reach to make sure they can feed themselves, right? So it's just like, when a baby's rolling or sitting up, they all reach it at different times. So that's why we say around 6 months, because some babies reach these milestones sooner and some a bit later. So number one is baby should be able to sit without support, or at least minimal support, right? Because that indirectly, and their head and neck control, right? Because see, if they want to take a spoon and put it in their mouth, or they want to grab some finger foods, they need to be stable, and their digestive system needs to be strong enough to digest it. So it's about the experience they're going to have. So they need to be able to sit well. The second thing is their tongue thrust should diminish. So, when you put a spoon or toy in their mouth, a lot of babies at 5 months, they'll stick their tongue out. It's a natural reflex, and that generally goes at around 5.5, 6 months. And we want that to go because we don't want to put a spoon in their mouth trying to feed them and they're
They're pushing it
sticking
out.
their tongue out instead of taking it in. So that will go on its own. The third thing is hand-eye-mouth coordination. We want them to see the food, put their hands in the puree, mash the finger foods, and put it in their mouth. So you'll start seeing that they pick up stuff and put it in their mouth.
Yeah,
And the
or
last thing, yeah, yeah, or
my pick on just like he's trying. It's like going to his nose, like it's actually kind of like, oh, here.
yeah. So in fact, that's why they say you can give babies teethers from 3 months on, so they can start practicing. So by the time they reach 6 months, they'll kind of, have mastered that coordination. And the last thing is they should show an interest in food. They should want to grab the banana from your hand and, be excited about the experience. And it's important that all these signs are met together. Like, don't look at just one on its own, because you want them to have a good experience and you need all these signs to be met. So take your time. Don't worry about starting early. You want them to digest the food properly and also, have a good experience and physically be able to enjoy it. So, minimum 6 months. Some babies reach these earlier, then you can start earlier. Otherwise, it's okay to also wait a little bit, because it's not like when you start solids, milk is gone and you're just, giving them, solids. Yeah.
Yeah. So food for me at that age is more of a kid is playing with their food and they're tasting it at for the first time, but that is by far not the nutrition. We breastfeed, so for us, the breast milk is where the nutrition comes from still. So that's one thing parents have to keep in mind. So sometimes the older generation doesn't really get what all the new technology, new scientific facts. So I think parents are better equipped with knowing what is the newest information, and they select what is best for their family and how to proceed.
Sure. And I mean, we all have to remember that in the first year, breast milk and formula are the primary source of nutrition. So even when we're adding meals, we only do it one at a time, because their body has never digested food before. So we can't burden them with so much food. It can actually lead to constipation, sensitivities, and all that. So even with solid foods, what we do is we keep the breast milk schedule the same. And all you're doing is adding one meal in between breastfeed, so that the baby is not crying for milk, because they don't associate food with hunger yet. So it's not crying for milk. And as they eat more, what you will start to realize is that the milk feed that comes after that will naturally start to reduce. They will feed for less because they are full. But this is a gradual process that will slowly work its way up till about a year. And even post 1 year, yes, food is the main thing, but it's still great to breastfeed a few times a day. It's just that solid foods take priority over it.
Yeah, so I think you just answered our next question, which is I want to pull the next slide over, which is how much to offer and when, like how many meals a day, like you mentioned before, the milk intake should remain the same as just the primary source, whether that is formula or that is breast milk, and milk intake will gradually decrease as more and more food gets in the stomach, kind of transition into being able to take more solid as well.
Yes, yeah. So as you see, like, in the first month is just about one meal a day. You're introducing them to a variety of flavors and textures and just getting them used to the fact that there's something called meal times. Because it's a new experience. Some kids take to it right away, then you can move faster. Some need more time. So you don't want to do 3 meals a day where a baby's just not enjoying the process yet. Once you see the baby's understanding, looking forward, trying different textures, able to digest it, then at 7 to 9 months, you move to 2 meals, and 9 to 12 months, then you can focus on 3 proper meals. And very important is that babies don't need snacks. Snacks right now is their milk feed. So it's only at like 10, 11 months when a milk feed is completely eliminated, especially if you're feeding with the bottle, then maybe you can add in a snack. But right now, milk still needs to be around, in the first year. Yeah. And even with breastfeeding, there's no set amount, right? Because we don't know how much they're having. So you just stick to the schedule and they will gradually reduce themselves. And if you are feeding from a bottle where you're pumping and you can feed, then yes, the NHS does suggest around 600 ml of formula minimum at 6 months, and at 10 months still 400. So it's still a good amount. So this is just a range for you to see that there is a good amount of milk that they're still having.
Okay, Sanchita. So one of the biggest questions that parents, I think, ask all the time is what type of food to start with? Because also coming from different cultures as well, we were told different things by our parents and what food to start. And in Hong Kong, when you go to the MCHC, they give you these charts of more local Chinese food to start as well. But from a nutrition point of view, what are the best food to start when a baby wants to start their first salad?
Yeah, so we need to look at the nutrition perspective of it, right? Like one of their major needs is iron, because from 6 to 12 months, the amount of iron they need is the most they'll ever need in their life.
Oh,
So what we need to do is we need to start simple, right? So I recommend starting the first 1 or 2 weeks with just simple fruits and veggies. And, just to make sure their body can digest the food, they're enjoying meal times. And then we can move on to the iron-rich foods. And the iron-rich foods, we start with all the greens. So even all the Chinese greens are really great for them. And then we can do, like broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, kale, all of that. And then we can move on to meats or lentils, right? Because actually for meat is the most easily absorbable form of iron in terms of food. So, giving things like chicken and even like, parts like liver is so great for babies. They get everything they need. Yeah, so you can even freeze liver and just grate it on a warm puree a little bit and just offer it to your baby. A chicken drumstick, even if they're just gnawing on the juices, that is so nutritious. So, you start simple, just make sure they're doing okay, then move on right away. You don't need to wait. Start with all the meats, lamb, pork. The main thing with the meats is we want to just get good quality, right? Because I think that's where it gets a bad rap because,
all the
a lot of
hormones.
yeah, so if you can get, grass fed or, pasture raised for eggs as well, egg yolk is amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, just make sure you get good quality ones, so that they can really get the good stuff from the meat. So, definitely don't be afraid to start with, all of these foods, even things like bone broth, veg broth is really nutritious. So what my clients do is their babies, after they've had the meal, they will actually have sips of bone broth or sips of veg broth, or they'll add that broth in the puree. So definitely don't shy away from a variety of foods. We want to develop their taste buds. So there's no need to do banana for 3 days. Do banana for 1 day. If your baby's had a few bites and enjoyed it, move on to the next one. Unless it's an allergen food, then you need to, test it slowly. And then, there's a whole other process for that.
Yeah, as well as we usually do like banana 1 week, or not even 1 week, but like a couple of days to make sure there's no reaction. And then the next thing, I usually love to do avocado with a little bit of breast milk in there, mash it up a little bit just to start with. But also, you mentioned egg. So egg white, we're not supposed to introduce that until they're like at least 9 months, I think, because it is one of the allergens. So egg yolk is okay, but egg white is something to be careful with. And soup, definitely. If I'm coming from a Chinese culture, soup is a major thing for us. So what we started doing is I actually got these silicone straws, and I cut it in half so it's shorter. And we have a little cup of soup for him. And we make soup with vegetables, with like carrots, potatoes, and meat, as you mentioned. But we buy good quality one that's no hormone injected, hormone free, those type. And then he would drink it with a straw because now he's used to sucking from a bottle. So that's how he was drinking soup in the beginning. So we got him to love soup at about, I think, 9 or 10 months old. But yeah, it is one of the big key thing when buying meats and things, try to buy good quality ones. And my husband and I, we always joke that the kids eat better than the adult because they do eat grass fed,
When it comes to us, I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever oil, it's fine, whatever. With my kids, it's only like coconut oil or ghee or, olive oil and, like good ones. So I'm just like, way. And I think it's just the best thing you can do to, and which is what you did. Whatever you guys eat in your household,
Mm.
start them young and offer it often. And
Yeah.
once you do that, that is the way they will develop the taste. And don't be affected by how much they're eating, because a baby can take up to 15 times to accept a food. So,
Mm.
some babies will eat it and have it and it's fine, and some won't, but don't give up. Keep
Yeah.
trying it in different forms. And yeah, definitely think of what you guys like to eat in the house and work towards that.
Top allergenic foods. Eggs, peanuts, fish, shellfish. Definitely eggs. I think egg yolk is okay, but egg white, right, is the one that they are allergic to,
Yeah, so
if
yeah,
possible.
because egg white is the what, see, you get an allergy to the protein part of the food, right? So the egg white is where the protein is, but you still can test egg yolk at about 6 months. The main thing is with all of these, you need to test it between 6 to 12 months, because actually now the latest studies show the earlier you introduce it and the more exposures helps the body build tolerance towards it. So my main thing is do it one at a time, so like 1 week test eggs, another week test fish, like gradually. And starting early, and look at all of these foods. These are highly nutritious foods that they should be
Yeah.
having. So it's definitely great to introduce it early on and get them used to these tastes. Just a note for strawberries and kiwi, they're not allergens, but what they are is they can cause sensitivity. So
Yeah.
a lot of times if you give a baby an orange or lemon, they might get a rash around their mouth because the
Yeah.
vitamin C touches their skin, and it's more just a sensitivity because it's so strong. So that's why I just recommend like citrus foods. Just wait till about 8, 9 months and then you can try it.
One of the so before I go into that, one of the thing I wanted to ask is tree nuts. What exactly is tree nuts again?
So tree nuts are all the other nuts. So like cashews, pistachios, pine
Uh,
nuts, all of
Anything
that.
but
Because
peanuts.
yeah, because peanuts are actually a legume. It's another section. So tree nuts are all the other nuts. So you
Okay.
have to test each nut, because some people are allergic to cashews but not peanuts, or they're allergic to pine
Almond.
nuts. Yeah, like there. So you have like fish. If you're allergic to one kind, you're probably allergic to all. But nuts, you can be allergic to one and not another. So you have to test each one separately.
Yeah. Sesame seed, like sesame oil. Is there a difference if this cooking has sesame oil in it? Because I know
So
like
you
Korean cooking, we do a lot of sesame oil as well.
and even like for kids when making fried rice and all of that, it's good to do variety. So making small changes, like if you normally use coconut oil, the next time use sesame oil. But sesame also you
Mm.
need to test, so you can test it in the form of an oil, like cook a little bit or add a little bit, 2 drops in the puree, or
Mm.
you can sprinkle some sesame seeds on top of a puree, but you need to still test.
Of course, one other thing is cow's milk. Recommended. It's my previous knowledge is that cow's milk you don't introduce that until they're at least 1 years old. Is that still the updated information on that?
Yes, so that is still the updated information, but what you do from 6 to 12 months is you work on a dairy timeline. So you build up the tolerance. So what you do is that 6 months, you can start with like butter or ghee, which is actually just that part of the milk. And then in
Uh,
the accepts that, then you can try yogurt at about 7, 8 months because that's fermented.
yeah.
And then if you want to do cottage cheese, you can do that after yogurt. And then at around 11 months, you can do cheese. So you're slowly building it up, but you don't give a baby cow's milk to drink until 12 months because the protein, they cannot digest it. And
Mm.
some people use cow's milk in cooking, but I still don't advise against it because there's so many other great milk sources you can use, even things like nut milk, coconut milk and all. And it's also still difficult to digest. So I would just wait till 12 months for sure.
Yeah. The other thing is for cow's milk, you really have to pay attention what kind of cow's milk you're buying in the market. In Asia,
Yep.
especially, some of the cow's milk when I first came out, I was very shocked at. They said instead of the ingredient saying fresh cow's milk, it says milk protein and a bunch of other things. It says milk
Yes.
drink on it. So it's not the type of milk that you want to give your kid. You always have to look at the ingredient and we're trying our best right now to buy cow's milk. If we do give her any cow's milk with her cereal, or even almond milk, we try and make sure that the milk's coming from a source that is reputable And we know
Yeah.
that they don't just throw any ingredients in there as well. So that is also
Yeah.
key to watch out for. We just did baby 6 months to 1 year. So let's jump into toddler, Kurt.
Yeah.
For toddler, a lot of times, parents struggle because, this is when they have a mind of their own. They're
Yeah.
very picky. They know what they like. They know what they don't like. So let's talk about like a balanced meal. What is considered a balanced meal for a toddler? And I think you sent me
Yeah.
a picture of this too as well.
So the thing is that we need to just remember that, setting the right habits from 6 to 12 months is really what's going to set the base for, how they eat as toddlers. So offer variety from 6 to 12 months. Don't put any pressure and let them feel in control of meal times, which is getting them to feed themselves. Once they become toddlers, they're going to be running around. They're going to learn the word no, and you have to just stay calm and stand your ground. So the number one thing is make a schedule: breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, and stick to it. Don't offer anything in between, and give them a timeline. Here's your food. You got to stay strong. And there's one thing that you can do is create a balanced meal, right? Because we don't know how much they're going to eat, right? Because sometimes they're not hungry, and that's their decision. They're listening to their bodies, which we're all trying to do right now. But let them listen to their bodies. But what you can do is create a meal that has all the components they need. So whether they have 1 bite or 10 bites, they are getting everything. So you do
Yeah.
your. So the first thing every meal needs to have is a carbohydrate, because they're growing. So they need the calories, right?
Yeah.
So carbohydrate would be anything from a root veggie like beetroot, carrot, pumpkin, potato, or the grains like rice and, oats and stuff like that. And then the next thing would be a source of iron, source of protein. So that would be all your meats, the chicken, beef, lamb, egg yolk. And then for vegetarians, it would be the greens and also the nuts and the seeds that you can just sprinkle on top. And then the third thing is continuous exposure of veggies and fruits for them to get the vitamins they need for their body to function well. And the fourth thing, which is very important, is fats. You need to be cooking with oils because their brain is growing. They need the fats for brain growth to help with digestion. So once you have those four things in a meal, then you're really good to go, and whatever they can have. Then of course on top you can add some seasonings, and you can add some superfoods, which is like sprinkle some sesame seeds on top, or add some to the cereal, add some hemp hearts, anything for extra nutrients.
You also sent me a couple of other pictures of balanced meal. I just want to give examples for the parents, right? So this is a balanced meal here as well. It doesn't look like it. You're like, what is that over there? But there's your protein, there's your vegetable, there's your fruit, and there's your carbohydrates. Is that bread, right?
Yeah. So as you can see, it's a lot of times we think our kids should be eating a lot more than they need to. So, let them decide, and their portions are a quarter of how much we are eating. So even if you're offering meat, right? The meat would be the egg, like half an egg is like one portion, and they only need 2 portions of protein in a day.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot that they need. So you see here, just offer like bread, or even bread. Okay, bread has a bad rep. So, and yes, a lot of the bread has, extra salt and sugar. So, but I realize with kids, don't restrict. I give my kids bread, but I give them once or twice a week. I don't give them every day. So it's all about balance. And as you can see, these meals have all those components I just mentioned, and you just keep rotating it. So every day change the fruit or veggie, change the grain, each meal change the grain, so that they're getting that variety and their body has a chance to get the nutrients they need.
And then we have another picture as well about balanced meal example.
So even if you do like a fried rice, right? Like the rice is the carbs, the oil would be the coconut oil or sesame oil you cook it with. The protein will be the chicken or fish or whatever meat you add in, or egg also. If you're doing an egg fried rice, add in some egg. You add in the veggies, you add your seasonings to it. That's a complete meal. For toddlers, again, we do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then they can have 2 snacks in between the meals, because a lot of times they go to school, so they'd have a snack. You generally want to have a snack that has a source of protein and fiber. So fiber would be things like bread or fruit, and then the protein would be like a nut butter or some cheese on the side, because the protein will help balance the fiber and make them feel full for longer. Some kids don't need the snack. If you feel your kid is not eating lunch properly, eliminate the snack. They probably don't need it then. Your goal is to get those 3 things, and you can offer some milk in the morning and some milk at at night, that's fine as well, to get the extra, like, superfoods in, like the extra protein, calcium
Yeah.
and stuff.
Let me just ask you this. Once they hit 3 years old, they're kind of like past the stage of toddlerhood.
Yeah.
What if you have a child who's just getting, I'm not sure, they're just getting sick of eating. I mean, like for instance, my daughter, she's almost 5.
Yeah.
Previously, she had a really good relationship. We started out very good habits where anytime she eats, she has to eat at the table. She's not
Yes.
allowed to run around. I am not chasing after her. I refuse to chase after her for like trying to
Good.
grab food in her mouth. No phone on the table, no toys on the table. That's always been the case. But lately, after she hits 4, I don't know, it's because of the second child coming and she's just doing a tantrum and stuff. But she's starting to having a harder relationship with food. Like she likes certain food, she'll eat really fast. But then certain food is
Yeah.
not her favorite. She'll like take forever, like literally an
Yeah.
hour of sitting there trying to get her like finish your food, finish your food. What advice do you have for that?
So I think that it's one, we need to accept that it's very normal behavior for kids. So we need to just work around that. Obviously, set your boundaries as it is and explain to them they're not going to get anything, until the next meal. So that way, at least then they'll learn that, okay, this is my time and I have to eat. The first few times they'll probably reject and say, I don't want it. You can even get timers. So like you can get sand timers, or if you have
Uh-huh.
Google or Alexa, and say, okay, Alexa, put the timer for 15 minutes. So they know within 15 minutes, they need to finish their food. So if she's sitting there for half an hour, then at 15 minutes, you can say, okay, done. Then eventually she'll learn that this is the time. That's the way you set the boundaries. You don't
Oh, so
force
even if
them to.
she's not full, just like it's done, is done.
It's done, because what will happen is you'll be sitting there for an hour. So us as parents, we have to set these boundaries, but we need to make them feel in control, and like we're not forcing her to finish it in 15 minutes. We're telling her this is 15 minutes, you decide how much you want to eat, but after 15 minutes, that's it. Mealtime is over. We're all going to get up and leave. So obviously, if she's taking maybe 45 minutes, bring it down to 30 and then see how that works. And then, you can slowly see what makes sense in that way. And the other thing is, get them involved in meal planning. Say, okay, this is what we're going to have. What do you want today or this week? Let's
Yeah.
do it together. Let's write it down. And also get
Yeah.
them in the kitchen, or give them like, you can put like seeds and stuff in like the shakers and say, okay, which one should we add today? So, it's really about just making them feel in control and part of the process. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you need to have some boundaries, because you are going to decide what is going to be served, when, and where. Those are
Yeah.
your 3 roles. Her role is if she's going to eat and how much. So just work on what you can control, and the rest really, I mean, we've seen it. Forcing them is not going to work in the long run. And
Yeah.
so many of us were spoon fed and force fed, and a lot of us are having issues with our health and with food and all of that. So trust that they'll be able to decide what is needed. And even if she doesn't finish her lunch, 2 hours later you're giving her that rice cracker with the protein and all of that, and 2 hours later she's having dinner. And then, so she has multiple opportunities in the day to get everything she needs.
What about fussy eater? Because I know that there are some kids that are just plain fussy. They're just like, it has to, these are some of the stuff I heard. It has to be a certain color, has to be a certain shape, where, or maybe, they're very particular about what plate they use too as well, what kind of food they're eating.
Yes, yes. So actually all kids go through a phase called neophobia. It's a fear of new foods and a fear of foods in general. All of them go through this. So, you just have to kind of work around it. That's why, offering a safe food, like if they only want white color foods, make sure each meal has a white food. But then what you do is you start making small changes to it. So if you're offering a slice of bread, next time you offer it, cut it in a different shape. Start making small changes to the foods that they like, so that they can slowly be receptive to different things. Then offer other white foods, and then you can do something called food play. So food play is really what gets kids to like different foods. So for example, if your kid doesn't like beans, right, and you offer that, right? So then what you do is you take the beans and you show them in the kitchen, like, okay, these are the beans, and this is the way it is, and we buy it in the supermarket. Just show them. The next day, you do food play with them. So if they like coloring or painting, or they like playing with water, take those beans and let them paint with it or stamp with it, or, make a shape out of it. So you're not forcing them to eat, but at least you're getting them to touch the food. And that's the first step towards them eating. You can't expect to just put it there and for them to put it in their mouth. But once they start touching and playing with it, then the next day you just put one piece with their meal, and they'll say, I don't want to eat it. You say, okay, no problem. You know what? Can we squish it? Oh, wow, it really squishes well. Like, just get them to interact with it. And then one day they might just put it in their mouth. So toddlers all go through
So
it,
letting
but
them play with their food.
let them play with their food and don't pressure them to eat it. And one day they'll see you, and one day they might be hungry, they might try and they might like it. So we can't force them in that way. So at least getting them to feel familiar with it, and that a red color food is not scary, just kind of get them past that phase, that can really help them.
Let's talk about you a little bit. How do you work? Explain to parents, how do you work with them? How do you, how does your program work to get them to have a better, healthy relationship with food for these kids?
Yeah, sure. So I have different programs, depends on the age of your baby. So if your baby is just starting out with solids, I have a 1-month package where basically we do 3 Zoom calls, WhatsApp support, and I guide you through the entire process. So we work together on what foods, how to feed, how to do baby-led weaning, spoon feeding, the best practices. And then if you have a toddler and you want to help with picky eating, how to create balanced meals, I do have a package where we do a Zoom call. Like, I see what you're feeding. I teach you how to improve those foods, how to improve the schedule, tips on making them eat better, and then you work on that. So I have different packages based on the different ages of the child. And it's all about service, and I'm there, on WhatsApp. You send me videos, I guide you on what to do better. And I also just I update you with all the facts. How many portions, how to feed them. So at least then you feel like, okay, I understand what I'm doing now.
Thank you so much. Let me just share your contact information because I think this is definitely important. This is full contact. If you have any question or you want to check out the different programs that they have to help your kids would have better relationship, or even help the parents out in dealing with fussy eaters and such, feel free to reach out to Sanchita. What's amazing is that we do have a discount code for our viewers for the Little Monkey community, and the discount code is Little Monkey 2021. You get a 10% off for the program. So I'll definitely make sure to put that also in our blog summary as well. And I hope that can help someone out if they considering getting some additional help for feeding their kids or children nutrition in this case. Thank you so much, Sanchita. I think this was great in talking about it. A lot of information, and of course, anybody, if you have additional question, feel free to send it over to us. If I can't answer it, I'll send it over to Sanchita as well. But we hope these have been helpful. 30 minutes, sorry. I was gonna say 20 minutes. I hope these have been helpful 30-minute interviews with topics that a lot of the parents are facing today in our parenting journey. And so next time, I hope you look in our website and our blog to look at other issues and other interviews that we've done, and hopefully those will help you as well. So until next time, thank you, Sanchita.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really great. Bye.
Bye, guys.